she said, he said, and he disappeared on us. It's like, where the hell did you go? And it turns out that you decided to take off and go check out some national parks. Is that correct?
We did. We got a call actually from a family member. Well, a couple of family members, and it happened to be my wife's parents. And we decided that because they're getting up in age and things like that, and there was a couple surgeries, we decided that we were going to trek it across the country and go visit them. And in the meantime, on the way there and on the way back, we routed it out so that we could hit some of our awesome national parks that are out there. Some of the ones that we haven't had a chance to get to yet. So
yeah, and you started from Arizona, right?
Yes, in Mesa, Arizona, and worked our way over to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Holy moly. And now my curiosity is, why did you decide to do this in the wintertime?
That's a great question. And for one, we're tired of being cooped up, right? We've been cooped up because of the COVID for almost a year now, maybe about a year now. And the opportunity arose, and we just decided, we've never crossed the country in the wintertime before. And we just decided, we'll just do something different, check it out.
So was it just you and your wife, or did you take the family with you?
Just me and my wife.
Oh, cool. Now, your kids are they teenagers?
No, they're grown. My son is 26. Yep. And my daughter is 21. So she'll be a senior in college, believe it or not, this coming fall. So
cool. Very good. So I need to remind our listeners, this is only a half-hour show, so we'll probably be talking fast. But so John and his wife decide we're going to take off from Arizona in the wintertime, and you actually, one of your hobbies is actually visiting national parks. And so before we go into the ones you've got some materials and some things that you do to help keep track of the different national parks you go to, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So one of the really cool things that the national park, that's okay.
Sorry.
One of the really cool programs that the national park has is the passport little thing. And it's just like a passport, but it's for all national parks. It's for national wetlands, national memorials, everything. So it includes everything. But we like to focus on the parks. There's about, I believe there's 67 national parks in the United States. And our goal is to eventually hit them all. But this is cool because and I've had this book now for about 8 years, but you can see when you get to a national park, and I'll put it up there, you can get a stamp. So every national park has a stamp, and you go to the stamp area and you stamp it, and it gives you the date and the location that you were at. And then what I do is I started this on this trip. I actually buy the travel stamps and the stickers. This is a travel stamp. This happens to be for Big Bend National Park in Texas. That was one of our stops that we hit this year. And as well as they always come out with a national park sticker as well that you can put. Now, I don't put them in my books. I just kind of keep them to collect them, because once you peel a sticker and put it in, you can never, take it out of there. So I don't know if that's what I want to do.
I hear you.
This year, I actually bought the collector's edition passport. It's kind of big, but it's really cool.
Do you have to get that one stamped too when you go out and about?
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing now. I'm using this one because it's really laid out really nice. Every single national park or memorial or whatever is listed in there in each region, so it makes it super easy. This is just a little bit small. It's nice because you can tuck it away in a pocket, but it doesn't list everything. Doesn't give you information on every stop like the big one does. So that's why I upgraded, and I'll be using that one moving forward. But this is always going to be my, my first one. You know what I mean? It's kind of,
it's got all your stamps in it. You can't exactly transfer that to the big book.
No, so I'll definitely keep them both, but moving forward, I'm just going to use the big book to collect my stamps and things like that. So it's just a really fun thing to do, and that way you can kind of go back in time. Like I was writing everything down, kind of keeping some notes here. My very first stamp was back when White Sands was a national monument. That's over in New Mexico.
Yeah.
It was a national monument. This year, they actually changed to a national park. So that was my very first stamp. That was back in February the 2nd of 2013. And that's when I bought my little book. So it's kind of cool to go back and kind of relive those trips and to kind of
Yeah.
remember, oh, wow, it was that long ago when I first started doing this. I didn't realize, it was 8 years ago. So pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, before I forget, I don't remember if I introduced you correctly, but also John Smith here has the John Smith Show, which is a conservative kind of political show, but a talk show also. And you also have another show called Say What You Will Radio, which you do with your son, correct?
Yeah, the Say What You Will Radio is our podcast network.
I
And then
know.
we have the Pops and Low radio show. That's what I do with my son. And then he's got the NFL show. It's called Undrafted GM. So we're up to 3 weekly shows. We're staying pretty busy.
Yeah, so the John Smith Show you do every weekday, right?
Yeah, I've cut it back a little bit. I'm trying to do it Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays,
So
just
that's
because
just a
life
little,
is so busy.
yeah, and it gets a little stressful when you have to talk about those kind of subjects. Sometimes it gets in. You need a day to chill out before you do your next show. I would, if I do political shows, I know I'm just all riled up. If you get a good guess, you're really riled up after the show.
Yeah, no, and I have Sheriff Mark Lamb from Pinal County. He's going to be on my show on the 26th of February, and
Cool.
I don't know if you know who he is, but he's an awesome guy. He's been on Live PD. He's been on Live PD Wanted. He's just a downright awesome dude and a great sheriff at that. So I'll be talking with him about policing and what's going on in the current state of affairs,
Cool. So, yeah, make sure you get a chance to check out your YouTube channel's called Say What You Will Radio, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, so if you go into YouTube, just type in "Say What You Will Radio" and you'll find his channel. And then, do you put your son's those other all the other shows all in the same channel?
Well, we don't, and there's a reason why. Because people get so offended by politics, we try to kind of separate that show from the other shows,
Gotcha.
because someone might really like the my son's NFL show, Undrafted GM, but then completely get turned off because
With politics, yeah.
of the politics. So
Gotcha. All right. Well, let me get back
have
to
our own channels.
I gotta get back to these national parks. So you was this a trip that was kind of actually really planned out, or is this a spur of a minute of the moment kind of kind of a trip to just get out of the house and go check out some more national parks?
That's kind of what it was. My father-in-law had to go get some surgery done, and once his he's in his mid 80s, and so we just thought, what, post surgery, we're going to go out and visit him. So it was kind of a last minute thing.
Yeah.
I happened to find an amazing deal on a rental car, and so we're like, you know what, we're going to make this an all-encompassing trip. We're going to stop and see some national parks. We're going to visit with family, and then make our way back home. So it was kind of a last minute thing, but it came together really well. So
Cool. So you got out. I can't get words out today. Come on, you can do it, Rob. So you get out of Arizona. What was your first destiny?
our first destination going out, we tried to get out to Pittsburgh as quickly as we can, so that we can take our time coming back. But our first destination was actually the St. Louis Arch, the Gateway Arch, and that's a national park. People don't realize that. Maybe some people do, but a lot of people don't realize that the Arch is on a national park.
And
So that
what
was our
state
first stop, and that's in
what
Missouri, in St. Louis.
Missouri? Gotcha. Yeah, for some of us that don't, I haven't been past the West Coast as much as I should, so I may ask you for states once in a while here. But so you got to that park, and was that on the way before you get to Pittsburgh?
It is, yeah. It's about 9 hours west of Pittsburgh, and it's nice because it's right on Interstate 70,
Oh,
and
sweet.
Interstate 70 runs from St. Louis right into Pittsburgh.
And
So
so tell us a little bit about quickly what that national park, what's some of its specialties and things you just got to see.
So that's really cool because it's got a really nice museum underneath the arch. So the arch, if you've seen pictures of it, it's very, very tall. And they call it the gateway to the west. But underneath the arch, all you see is a grass field. But underneath that grass field is a huge museum. And it's basically based on Lois and Clark's adventures across the country. And so it's a fascinating museum. And then you can take the elevators up to the very top of the arch. And that way you can either look west over St. Louis or you can look east over the Mississippi River
Wow.
into Illinois. So it's beautiful. Now, because of COVID, there's some restrictions. They only let you stay up there for 10 minutes. I think we clocked it at about 7. They're pretty adamant about keeping people distanced and not spend a lot of time. So, but it was still great. It was actually raining. So our views weren't as good as we were hoping they would be, but you could still see all of St. Louis. You can look right down into the baseball stadium. You can look right out over the Mississippi River and see the gambling boats and all that type of stuff. It's really awesome. And it's very inexpensive. I think it was only maybe $13 a piece to ride the elevator to the top. So, and the elevators are cool because they're the original elevators that were built when the arch was built.
Wow.
And so it gives you that very nostalgic feeling. It's really cool. Now they did update some of the mechanics of the elevators because they were using big mercury switches back in the day because it's an arch, the cart you're in has to stay level.
Oh, gotcha.
So because you don't want to go like this and end up falling down, So they used mercury switches to keep them level, but now it's all done electronically. So it's, but it's really cool.
I was going to ask you, in the different states, did you notice any big differences in how people were treating the COVID situation?
Oh yeah. Arizona is pretty loose. We're pretty open here. The minute you get into New Mexico, it's very strict.
Wow.
Signs everywhere, masks required while traveling. Please don't travel unless you have to, this type of stuff. And, they want you wearing masks at all times. So pretty strict. And then, you get into the Midwest, you get into Texas and Oklahoma, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, it lightens up quite a bit. It loosens up. And then when you hit the Pennsylvania border, they're very, very strict in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So once you get to Pennsylvania and you get a chance to see your father-in-law, how long were you in Pittsburgh?
We were there for 8 days.
Oh, so during that 8 days, you didn't actually get to see any of your national parks, did you?
No, but we got a lot of good food.
Yeah, well, that's an important thing.
That's right.
That's what life's all about when you're at our age.
Absolutely. You got that right.
You're heading out of Pittsburgh, which is interesting drive. You actually went kind of down and up to get up to there, right? Because you hit through Texas, didn't you?
Yeah, we went through Texas, and we saw on the way through Texas, there's some kind of roadside attractions. They're not necessarily national parks or national monuments, but they're interesting, like Cadillac Ranch. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but a guy buried 10 Cadillacs, the hoods, so only I guess half of the roof, and then the trunk sticks up out of the ground, and they're all at an angle, and there's 10 of them there, all lined up.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we stopped to see that, and there's a couple other things that we, roadside attractions that we stopped to see, but that was pretty cool. And then on the way back, we actually went south, And our first stop was over at Mammoth Caves in Kentucky. That was our first stop back, and
Oh, sweet.
that's pretty cool. It's the world. It's the country's
Actually, you're locking up a little bit. Let's have you
largest
start over.
cave system.
So say that again. We had some blocking, buffering.
Oh, okay, no worries. Buffering. Okay, I got you. So we went south from Pennsylvania and went into Kentucky. Our first stop was Mammoth Cave National Park, and Mammoth Cave is the largest cave in the United States. So it's pretty awesome. In fact, there's a lot of Mammoth Cave that has yet to be explored. That's how big it is.
Wow.
And but they had pretty strict COVID regulations. They had a lot of things that were closed and things like that. So we were able to stay there in the park. But it's a beautiful drive into the park. The area in Kentucky is lovely. I could see myself living in Kentucky. I'll be honest with you. It just seems like a lot of very laid back state, nice people, and a lot of open land, a lot of farmland, that type of stuff. So.
Yeah, I could picture you someday as a homesteader.
Oh yeah, I could do that for sure, for sure.
So from that one, then you probably had to start heading west. Is that correct?
We did, yeah. So from Kentucky, we were actually going to visit some friends of ours. He's a co-host on my show. His name is Tyke Magditch. He does my Monday night show with me,
Yep.
and we went to visit Tyke and his wife for dinner, and then we went to the next national park, which was Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Oh, sweet.
And we had no idea what to expect in Hot Springs because, we just had never been there. And here it's right smack dab in the middle of a state or in the middle of a city. Some of the most beautiful architecture you can imagine in Hot Springs. And the hot springs themselves, I think there's multiple hot springs, but they're up all along this big hillside next to what used to be an old Navy medical hospital. Back in the day. I think I'm not sure when they closed. It might have been in the 80s, but so the architecture is just phenomenal, and we just had a blast there. It was one of the most unexpected national parks as far as just enjoy. I don't know what the word is, but we just really, really enjoyed it. So
seems like every time I go to hot springs, their hot springs don't work anymore.
Yeah, or there's a bunch of naked hippies hanging out.
No more. Like we have warm springs over here, Indian reservations, and it's like I don't think there is any more hot springs there. It's just yeah. And then there's one in Soul Duck. I went to theirs, and like I didn't recall ever seeing one up in Washington either. It's like something was not wrong with that one too. It's like so now when I see hot springs, like I don't believe them until I actually see it.
Yeah. Well, these ones I don't think you can go in them because it is a national park. You could, but what they used to do is they used to run the hot water from the hot springs into buildings down in town. And so all of these different buildings used to be natural hot spring spas back in the day before it became a national park. And there were a lot of big, wealthy people that used to go visit there and soak in the hot springs. One of the guys that was there on a routine basis was that mobster from Chicago. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But anyway, one of the big mobsters, he used to hang out there. A lot of Hollywood, types used to go there. So it's a really fascinating history. It's really, really cool. I would recommend if you're in Arkansas and you're traveling, through Arkansas, look up Hot Springs National Park and check it out. It's definitely worth it.
That sounds cool. Now from there, you had to head west again, didn't you?
We did. We headed southwest through the ice storms. We were caught in some of the ice storms.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting at the end here to see what kind of weather things we're going through, but I want to make sure you get a chance to talk about the parks you saw.
Yeah. So we went into Big Bend National Park. Big Bend National Park is in, how Texas has kind of two dips.
Yeah.
It's the western dip of the state, and it's really encompasses the full western tip of the dip. And it is fascinating. That's where the Rio Grande runs between Mexico and Texas. It was beautiful. We absolutely loved Big Bend National Park. It's a great place to go if you're into the outdoors, if you're into hiking, or if you're into four-wheel drives. They have four-wheel drive specific roads all through Big Bend National Park, and it was really cool. We were able to get we were able to drive down to the river. We were able to stand in the Rio Grande River and kind of look around, and it runs along these mountains that are directly south of the Rio Grande in Mexico, and just tiny little, like between the mountains and Rio Grande, there's tiny little Mexican cities. I wouldn't even say it's a city; it's just a little village.
Yeah.
And it's cool because they actually will make things like walking sticks and different types of crafts, and they'll put a jug and just ask for your money, and you can take whatever you want. If you want to buy a Mexican made walking stick, you can throw $10 in the jug and take the stick, and then in the middle of the night, they're going to sneak back over and take that jug of money back.
Good for them.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating. And there's actually a border crossing there that's only open a couple hours out of the week. But if you're there at the right time of the day, you can cross the border there, and they'll take you on a small little rowboat across the river. And then they'll put you on a burro on a little donkey, and they'll take you into town. And then you can go into town and you can buy, some trinkets or some artwork or whatever, spend the day there, but you have to have your passport, not your national parks passport, a real passport. And we don't have ours.
Joking,
so
right?
What's that?
It's like, Senor, I think you're joking.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to get stuck there. I would love to visit, but I don't want to be end up living there.
So you kind of did a lot of zigzagging, because I assume the next place you went to was
Guadalupe Mountain National Park, which is in Texas,
yeah.
but it's up near just south of the New Mexico border.
Okay.
And that's a pretty fascinating. It's a very small park, and it's if you're in a vehicle, a car, you can only see just a small portion. It's more for hikers.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. And, we just didn't have the time to spend to hike out to the summit or anything like that. But we did get to see as much as we could. There was a pretty thick fog that was rolling through, so we didn't see a ton. I'd like to go back there, but
Yeah, that happened to us in Glacier. We got up in the mountain there, and we were all fogged in, couldn't hardly see. But you just never know when you get there.
That's right.
So from there, of course, I gotta keep this moving along. Where'd you go from there?
So from there, we went to the caverns, the Carlsbad Caverns, and that is a fascinating place.
What state is that in?
That's going to be in New Mexico. So that's just north of Guadalupe Mountain National Park. So we went to Carlsbad Caverns, and I didn't realize how deep they are. And they have a model there, where like the visitor center is, and then this huge elevator shaft takes you so deep into the earth, into the caverns.
Wow.
And again, we wanted to go, but because of COVID, they were only letting couples into the elevator, and then, one at a time or whatever. And then, you could only go, they were only letting so many people into the caverns themselves, but that's a place I will definitely go back to for sure.
Okay. And from there, where'd you go?
From there, we went to White Sands, New Mexico.
I'm waiting for you to get, I keep trying to push this and get the Yellowstone, but he's like, oh, wow, you stopped a lot. Okay. So you're at White Sands. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, White Sands. It used to be a memorial. That was actually my very first stamp I ever got, was in White Sands when it was a national memorial. It's now a national park. But again, this is one of the most overwhelming national parks by as far as just the beauty. It's just amazing. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Nope.
But it is pure white. Once you get out to the dunes,
Really?
it's white like you're out in the middle of a huge snowstorm. but the sand is almost like baby powder, and it's always cold. No matter how hot the air temperature is,
Yeah.
the sand is always cold, like in the 40-degree temperature range. So
Interesting.
you can go out there in 115-degree weather, 110-degree weather in the middle of the summer and walk through that sand in bare feet, and your feet will get cold.
Amazing. Okay, from there, where did we go?
We went home.
Where's the Where's the Yellowstone part?
Yellowstone, we went earlier in 2020.
It wasn't part of this. Okay, that's why
it wasn't part of
it a lot.
You definitely don't want to go to Yellowstone National Park in February unless you're planning to go snowmobiling. You know, they get 10, 15 feet of snow. Yeah.
I mean, there's people that go there intentionally in the wintertime because there is a whole different beauty there, but you've got to be tolerant of snow and also have more equipment and clothing.
Yes.
But I hear it's amazing. I just like to go. I've never been there, but it's like either winter. I think I'd probably enjoy spring better, but I would like to see the winters there because it's amazing. I hear.
Yeah, if you're going to go to Yellowstone National Park, I would recommend. I've been there different times of the year. We've always seen the most wildlife. If you're a wildlife guy, I would recommend either in June or in September. For whatever reason, June, they're just they're the deer and the elk and the bear. You'll see everything. And then in September is when it's getting pretty close to the rut. Yep. So if you want to go see the moose when their antlers are fully grown, or the elk when they're massive, September, early October. But you got to be really careful because in Yellowstone, it can snow any month of the year, even July and August.
Yeah.
So when you get towards those colder months, you just got to be careful. And it's, it's a kind of the roll of the dice. You never know what kind of weather you're going to get. So,
yeah. Well, I'm getting down to real tight weather, but tight time here, but what weather anomalies did you say? I know you had a couple of weird weather anomalies on the trip. What was some of the highlights?
Well, as soon as we got into Pittsburgh, it started to snow. It hadn't snowed pretty much all winter long. So as soon as we got there, it started to snow, and it snowed about 8 inches. So we were, every day we were out shoveling the driveway, which was fine, because it's fun when you don't live there. But when you live there, it gets old pretty quick. But so we saw a lot of snow. But then as we were crossing the country, when we got into Arkansas, is when the ice storms started. And we came out of our hotel. We were in Bentonville, Arkansas. We came out of Bentonville, Arkansas, out of the hotel, and our rental van was in a cocoon of ice.
Oh.
So I had to break through the ice to get just the door open, and then had to clean about probably a 1/4 inch of ice off the entire car before we could leave. So it was crazy.
Wow. Hey, we're getting to the end of our show. I told you a half hour goes quick.
It sure does. I could talk about this for hours.
I know we may have to do a follow-up show. So I want to thank you very much for sharing your trip with us. I think everybody should do exactly what you're doing. Try to go check out our national parks. They're awesome. So for sure. But and don't forget to check out Say What You Will Radio. Great shows over there. I highly recommend them. And John, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Rob. It's been my pleasure, man. I really enjoy it. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Well, guys, gotta go. Thanks. Take care now. Bye. Thank you very much for watching our video. Please take the time to like, subscribe, and share our videos all over the whole wide world. Thanks.